我々京都のおしぐの証物は
Hello humans, demons, or whoever you are, Livius here. Like any good series, it had its ups and downs, but none were as shocking or infamous as Danny Phantom. Danny Phantom is an animated action-adventure series created by a fraud. It follows another Peter Parker clone as a half-ghost superhero, fighting evil ghosts with his two best friends who know his secret identity, and living with a ghost hunter family that wants to hunt down his superhero identity. So essentially Spider-Man mixed with Ghostbusters. It lasted 3 seasons with 53 episodes, from April 3rd, 2004 to August 24th, 2007. In 2001, after the success of The Fairly Odd Parents, a franchise that Nick doesn't want to acknowledge in their more modern video games. Note, save your anger for what's to come, not now. Nick wants the fraud, Butch Hartman, to make a quote-unquote boys action show. He tried, keywords here tried, to come up with names until he is satisfied with the name Danny Phantom, but still had to come up with concepts, like giving him a motorcycle. That's how you know Butch Hartman came up with the idea. He finally settled with a teen with ghost powers, pitched it to the CEO of Nick at the time, and everything was not marketably successful. It only had a few handheld video games and Burger King toys, but that's about it. It was not the financial smash hit that SpongeBob or even Fairly Odd Parents was, and due to that, the show was cancelled. Don't get me wrong, it sucks in its own right, but that's not what I want to focus on. But instead I want to focus on the show itself. Starting with the world and its characters, Danny Phantom or Fenton is the traditional loser at school superhero anywhere else but school archetype. Facing issues that his superhero persona creates and vice versa, he never has a normal life thanks to all the supernatural threats he faces, but also his parents being ghost hunters. Pretty self-explanatory why he keeps a secret identity. Only his closest friends and sisters through circumstances know who he is. Although he does use his ghost powers for selfish gain, we'll get to him soon enough, but ultimately fixes the mistakes he made. One aspect that I really like about his character is that he wants to be an astronaut. It could have been a one-off joke, but they keep referencing it, making it a serious aspect of his character. And he gets the opportunity to be an astronaut in season 2.
Hey, I'm an astronaut!
Fun fact, he's voiced by David Kaufman. You might have known him from the Ecto Cooler commercials, which means it's all connected. Sam and Tucker, played by Ricky DeShawn and Gray Delisle, are Danny's best friends and know about his secret identity. Tucker is a tech geek and failure of a ladies' man. Sam is Danny's environmentalist goth girlfriend, a ship the writers are hell-bent on making canon. Jazz is Danny's older sister, who is down to earth and very caring to her younger brother, even though she does screw up a lot. Jack and Maddie, despite the fact that they don't know that their own son is a ghost, are the incompetent ghost-hunting lovebirds. Okay, Maddie is kinda competent, but Jack?
I told you this genetic lock was a great invention. It's a perfect way to prevent any unauthorized access to the ghost zone.
And before you ask, yes, that is Rob Paulson playing Jack Fenton. But in all seriousness, they are well-meaning. And even if they do examine and experiment on ghosts, they still accept Danny for who he is currently, is what I would say if they didn't have their memories constantly wiped every 5 minutes. Finishing off the main cast, we have Danny's arch nemesis, Vlad Masters / Plasmius. He's a half-ghost like Danny, but unlike him, he was far more experienced, even having powers Danny ever had like a ghost shield and duplication. His backstory is that he was once a friend of Jack's, but due to an accident that made him half ghost, he was robbed of everything. Now a resentful and lonely man who can't move on from what happened. As long as you put his creepy obsession with Maddie aside, this is a pretty tragic backstory, and you gotta feel bad for him. Also, he's played by Martin Mull. I want to mention this because I could have sworn he has a different voice actor in Nasby too.
We can't have you pass out and change back into Danny Fenton now, can we? This might be your father's party, but you're the guest of honor. Ta!
Could it be that you've been right the whole time? You may have saved the day, Daniel, but it just as easily could be that I saved the day. how will we ever know for sure?
Since there's so many supporting characters and villains, I'm gonna go over the ones that stand out to me. Dash is the high school bully and athletic football jock who will peak in high school as his life will go downhill from here. Before he had a thing for Sam, Pauline was his original crush, but she's only into Phantom, not Fenton. Now that's pretty much it. Mr. Lancer, played by Ron Perlman, is the teacher and vice principal of Casper High. He also uses works of literature as swears. Admittedly, it is pretty funny. Valerie, played by Cree Summers, started out as a classmate at first, but as the series progressed, she becomes a ghost hunter herself thanks to Vlad. She's a skilled fighter, even taking on the more powerful ghosts, and having an arsenal of ghost weapons, including a hoverboard. She also shown some affection for Danny, even giving up ghost hunting just so they can be together. But since the writers were clearly favoring Sam, it was not meant to be. Oh, by the way, another fun fact, she was actually played by Grey DeLisle before Cree Summer took up the role.
Which ends with no, which, by the way, is my answer. Unless something happens in the next 5 minutes that makes me dateless. Guess what, everybody? The best ghost hunter in Amity Park is here! And that means you're about to get your butt handed to you!
I'm starting to realize I have more things to say about her than the last three combined. Danny Phantom has an interesting rogues gallery of villains, from Johnny 13, Freak Show, Ember, and Box Ghosts. I could go on and on about them, but I want to talk about the three best ones in my opinion. Desiree is a wish-granting genie ghost, and one of the first ghosts where it was confirmed that she was dead. Remember that for later, it's gonna be important. And I don't know about you guys, but I love her design, and her big, beautiful pair of bracelets. Yeah, I wasn't talking about anything else. Technus, played by Rob Paulson, again, is a ghost who can manipulate technology to his will, plus hacking and creating viruses. And also I love his over-the-top and hammy personality. The last villain I want to talk about before we get to him is Skulker, the villain who shows up the most throughout the series. Played by Kevin Michael Richardson, he's the self-proclaimed greatest hunter of the Ghost Zone. What makes him terrifying is that he's persistent and ruthless towards catching his prey. Sometimes he's even successful at capturing Danny. One last thing to mention about him is that he has a different voice actor in Season 1, like Valerie and Vlad.
Yes, well, I've got to go to the library and check out a book on a gorilla.
Again! I've done nothing with your sister, Ghost Child. Skulker hunts what he hunts. Nothing more, nothing less. Which is why I'm bringing this to my employer.
Speaking of Season 1, Season 1 has all the superhero origin episodes, where Danny tries to learn how to use his superpowers, meeting some supervillains for the first time, tries to fit in with the popular kids but fails anyways, and exploring this mysterious dimension called the Ghost Zone, a world where ghosts inhabit. So essentially the afterlife, but not really, as it has its own lore. The episodes I feel like would encompass this first season would be Splitting Images, Teacher of the Year, Shades of Grey, and Prisoner of Love. Starting with Splitting Images, in the home of Casper High there is a nerd ghost named Sidney Poindexter who haunts Danny's locker. It's okay, he only goes after bullies, but accidentally got Danny confused with one, trapping him in a mirror and swapping places. Much like Desiree, he was once mortal until being bullied to death. Wow, that was a lot darker when I said it. The alternate Midtown High, which is actually part of the Ghost Zone, has such a nice 50s aesthetic with the black and white filter. It gives off a retro movie or TV show vibe. In Teacher of the Year, Danny has no choice but to study for a test Mr. Lancer gave him, in time before Technus escapes from the video game Doomed. I am surprised id Software did not sue for this. But what makes this episode special is the video game references, and we got to see Mr. Lancer in a new light. He's surprisingly good at video games. Shades of Grey, aside from being Valerie's origin story, is about Danny taking care of Cujo, a ghost dog, and send him back to the Ghost Zone before Valerie kills him for getting her dad fired. First off, Valerie, what the fuck is wrong with you for wanting to kill an innocent creature? He's already dead! But for real though, for the brief moments we do see of him, Cujo shows that not all ghosts are evil, but instead misunderstood. And in Prisoners of Love, we get a deeper dive into the Ghost Zone, including its prison where most of the villains were at, and Danny having to work with them to break out. Plus, this joke always makes me laugh.
Wow. Pretty much everyone who hates me all at one table. Just like high school.
Season 2 is where all the greatest hits are from. Yes, even that episode, which we will get to soon, Stop Rushing Me. Micromanagement is an episode where Dad has to train Danny to get into shape, only for they and Skulker to get shrinked. I want to mention this because, like Teacher of the Year, we get to see Dash in another perspective, and he's not much of a bad guy actually. A Fright Before Christmas is a great Christmas special that takes place in a Christmas poem written by the ghostwriter, played by Will Arnett, and it's all in rhyme. Kindred Spirits, Danny, with an I, gets introduced, as a clone of Danny created by Vlad, which he considered his own daughter until she learns she's been manipulated by him and betrays him at the end. Now moving on to the 40-minute specials, in Rainstorm we get to meet the ruler of the Ghost Zone, Pariah Dark, who has returned thanks to Vlad. Now he wants to rule the human world, with Amity Park being the last safe haven. Reality Trip features a MacGuffin chase that the trio having to go across the country to find the missing pieces of the Reality Gauntlet, so they can save their respective families from Freak Show. Now I know I've skimmed past through Rainstorm and Reality Trip, but let's be real here, I know what you're here for, so let's not delay any further. This is The Ultimate Enemy. This episode is regarded as the peak of the show, if not this whole franchise, and where most of the marketing budget went to. A time travel episode where villains from the future show up to kill Danny before he becomes Dan Phantom. A alternate future Danny who lost everything and everyone he loved. Now he wants Vlad to remove his ghost half, just for Danny's ghost half to be fused with Vlad's, giving birth to Dan Phantom, and Eric Roberts gives Dark Danny a menacing yet elegant performance.
You know, if I had an ounce of humanity left in me, this would be a very touching little reunion. But of course I surrendered my human half a long time ago.
My only problem with this episode is the questionable time travel logic, but other than that, it's one of the most well written and deepest episodes the show gave us, making this the peak of Danny Phantom. All the episodes I listed were credited to Steve Marvell. However, for season 3, due to creative differences, he left the show, leaving Butch to write the full season, and the results were he written Phantom Planet. Yeah, season 3 was shit. Established characters are either flanderized or nerfed, and the new villains are either out of place or forgettable. The humor is on par with modern Fairly Odd Parents before it was cancelled, and some jokes did not age well today, let's leave it at that. And one of the worst things the show could ever do is ruin their own premise. They retconned the ghosts into monsters from another dimension.
The show, for example, I didn't want to have Danny meet the ghost of Elvis or the ghost of Abraham Lincoln or something like that. I wanted all the ghosts to be monsters from another dimension.
So you mean to tell me characters that were once sentient beings, including Best Girl, were never meant to be undead spirits in the first place, but monsters from an alternate dimension? That is fucking bullshit! Next thing you'll tell me is that Timmy and Danny are one and the same! Phantom Planet was a terrible way to end a show. It centers around Danny no longer being half ghost for the majority of the episode. Meanwhile, at the same time, an asteroid called the Disasteroid is on a collision course wiping out Earth and the Ghost Zone with it. One of the many problems with this special is everyone being out of character, like Sam, Tucker, and Jazz berating Danny for being normal, while the new ghost hunters that were introduced doing a better job than Danny. I'm just saying he deserves a break after all he's been through, and everyone acts like he's in the wrong for making his choice. The only reason why he became half ghost again is because of the Disasteroid. Vlad revealed himself as a supervillain and only agreed to save the world if he gets to rule over it, only to fail all because the asteroid is made out of the ghost's weakness. Congratulations, you made one of the most messed up and tragic villains into a joke. The only way to stop the Disasteroid is to make the Earth intangible. I wish I was making that up. And Tucker is mayor because why not? What can I say about Phantom Planet that hasn't been said already? It was the final nail in the coffin for Danny Phantom, and beyond a few crossovers here and there, the franchise never saw the light of day. Until now. A decade over its cancellations, Danny Phantom was back with the original cast reprising their roles in a YouTube ad promoting Bonson is a Beast. Nah, I'm just kidding. This is the part where we talk about A Glitch in Time. A Glitch in Time by Gabriella Epstein is a return to form that fixes everything the last season tainted. I don't want to spoil too much, however, I will say this. Everyone is exactly how you remember them from the first 2 seasons. We get more lore for the Ghost Zone, tons of great callbacks and references to past events, a familiar and fresh art style, and to top it all off, the return of Dan Phantom. If you're a Danny Phantom fan, highly recommend reading this. as it single-handedly brought back Danny Phantom after a decade. I gotta say, the future for Danny Phantom looks brighter than ever. The first comic was so successful we're gonna be getting a sequel soon. Hell, we're gonna be even getting a live-action movie. But as for the show itself, definitely go to Paramount Plus or buy it off digitally, or buy the complete series DVD box set. Whatever works for you. With that being said, please like, share, and subscribe, and remember, if you want to succeed in life, you gotta make a deal with hell. Whoever's making the live-action Danny Phantom, I only have one request. Please don't make it suck!